quick update. As you can see, the old engine's out. You can probably see that the crash bar is still on. Now normally would have taken the crash bar off and lifted the engine out this way, because I can't drop it out of the bottom because I've not got enough room. So I sort of moved it forward away from the bracket here and then lifted it up and over. The only reason I've not taken this off is because they're actually spot welded in as well, which wouldn't be a problem, but for what it'd take me to drill all them out, I just thought, well, I may as well just bring it back and lift it over. As you can see here, we've got a new used engine. A few things I'm going to have to swap over on this. The alternator, as you can see on these, they've got a slightly different, so I'll just have to put the other bracket on and change the alternator. I think I'm going to leave the fuel pump as is. All this side of it really I'm going to keep as is. It's got a different fuel filter on, so I'll just take this one off and use the one that were on the car. Going to try and use the turbo that's on this. The only other difference I can see is the oil cooler. Obviously it's got the smaller filter on, but the oil cooler is different, so I'll probably just try and swap over this oil cooler, but as well the pipe, the coolant pipe that runs across the front is slightly different as well. But on the other one it sort of runs towards the head and then runs along that way behind the turbo. So I'm still in two minds really as to what to do, but I'll keep you updated as I go on. Obviously, as you can see, I've got some new bits, so there were no starter motor on it when I came to it. Got a filter just in case I do need to reuse this one, but I have also got a Connect filter. That's a release bearing, slave cylinder, and I have got a new wet belt for it, obviously. Obviously better getting that done now. New wet belt. What else have I got? I've got a few other bits here, you see. So wet belt, filter, the top belt, obviously oil, and that's about it. Got all that. So yeah, so I'll get this set up and we'll get some stuff taken off it, swap some stuff over and hopefully get it put in. So at this point I'm just going around the engine, just seeing what I need to change over. So as a minute you'll see now I'm just taking off the fuel filter, because there is a fuel filter on the bulkhead at the back. So I keep that one on the car and just swap over the fuel pipes. I also did end up swapping the oil cooler, because it was different to the one, so then obviously the pipes on the vehicle that link up to it were different, so I had to put the original one back on. I also swapped the alternator over as well, as I mentioned, and the inlet manifold as well, because the original inlet manifold had like a flap on it, a vacuum operated flap, and this one didn't, so I swapped that over. As well, I replaced the top belt, the timing belt, but when I came to do the bottom belt, it's actually been converted already to a chain, which is good, so I just made sure that the engine was up to time. Me again, you're probably wondering why. So as you can see, the engine's out, came out fine, not a problem. Swapped everything over again, not a problem, everything seems to be alright. Checked that it was turning over alright, which it was. Put it up to time with a new belt, everything were alright. Now unfortunately I've lost some of the footage I've got of putting it back in. And also, as you can probably tell my voice, I weren't the best, so it's taken a few weeks to be honest with you. But the engine's in. Once it were in, like I said, it went on the mounts fine, not a problem there. But it's after that where I started having the issues, and you'll see. So as if by magic, you can see the engine's in. It looks quite well. Now, with a lot of these with diesels, trying to get them going sometimes, especially if you had the fuel open for ages, they can be a nightmare, and these transit connects are especially bad. The way I do it is introduce some brake spray or easy start into the inlet, crack the injectors, and as soon as you're getting fuel coming through your injectors, normally they go. Now you'll see with this one in a minute, it just weren't having any of it, weren't even trying to fire. It would just it was just really struggling, so I've had the timing back off, checked that it's timed up. I've done compression tests on it and the compression's alright. It's a diesel, all it needs is compression with a bit of brake spray, it should go. And that's sometimes how you can eliminate fuel, or if it's got other issues, if the timing's out, because they should go. And you'll see now, the only reason why I was so stumped is because apparently this engine was running fine until the wet belt went, which obviously, because I'd swapped everything over then, everything apparently was fine. Now what I did manage to see the little pipe on the left hand side, when I disconnected that, I could actually get it running. So initially I thought, well, you'll see in a minute, initially I thought that the DPF were blocked. Now it still might have an issue with the DPF, but you'll see in a minute, once I disconnect that pipe, the engine fires up fine. Now it's noisy, but it will fire up. Now the only reason why I thought it was a DPF is because once I've removed this pipe, which is an EGR pipe, it's allowed the engine to breathe, so I just thought it was blocked up. I've later come to find that somebody has swapped two little ball bearings that are called, I think, lifter bearings within the EGR. So if you take the EGR electrical body off, you can see them, they're in there. So they've removed them, so it weren't allowing the EGR to open up and close when it needed to on start up. So I've got some of them on order, so I'm going to put them on, and hopefully it'll be fine. I'm sure it will be. So yeah, a few issues, but as you can see, it now fires up all right. The job itself weren't too bad to do. So yeah, another good job. She's a runner. What a nightmare it's been, to be fair. It wouldn't have been too bad if these little ball bearings weren't missing out the EGR, but you know, it's all part and parcel of the game, I suppose. Doing them sort of jobs on them sort of engines, you know, you're not going to go out and buy a brand new engine for one of them. It's just not worth it. So it is what it is, but we got there in the end. I know the video's a bit hit and miss with obviously not having anything for the putting the box back in, putting the engine back in. But it's been dark as well. I've been doing it at night and stuff, so it just would have been a nightmare. Got some coming up, I think, an Astra, gearbox on an Astra, but just goes to show, guys, that you can do anything on drive. Really, you don't really need a ramp. Definitely earned myself one of these. So hit me up, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll catch you in the next one.